The basement, where nerdiness thrives, and grown men rant about toys.
What's up, everybody?
Hey!
Me and Frank are back.
Back again with another episode of Fresh from the Basement. Basement Dwellers. Continuing the Universe retrospective. We're coming near the final chapters of Kevin Smith's little world that he's created for us.
Yeah, and for a while, I thought this was the final chapter, and I was actually pretty happy with it.
One more time?
For a long time, I actually thought this was the final chapter, and I was actually pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, and overall, I would say that this film was received positively, but I would say it had a very a rocky beginning when it came to like the talks in the pre-production of like when it was first announced that he was doing Clerks 2. I think a lot of people were very skeptical on how this could go.
Yeah, I remember my earliest news of this was, God, about not too long after Strikes Back, and they were calling it Passion of the Clerks, which I thought was kind of stupid. I was like, I get the reference, but why?
Yeah, it was more of like just a reaction, I think, just because the Passion had come out at the time, and that had gained a lot of controversy, that it seemed like, and a lot of people were taking jabs at that movie at the time, like there's the infamous South Park episode, so it is kind of like chuckle-worthy, but yeah, that was never going to be like, that couldn't have been the official title.
Yeah, it just makes no sense whatsoever. And then the other one was Clerks 2 Hardly Clerkin'. I thought that was fucking stupid. I was like, just call it Clerks 2. I mean, that's all it needs to be. You don't need to add a fucking subtitle to it. Just call it Clerks 2. And thankfully they did.
Part of the enjoyment, I think, for a lot of fans of Clerks is the bluntness of it. You know what I mean? So it's like just calling it Clerks 2, not being really fancy with it, is kind of the best way to go, in my opinion.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it was a question of like what were they going to do with the second movie, because it's like they can't. A lot of sequels just retread what they had done before. I think a lot of people were curious about like what exactly can you do in the quick stop a second time around. And what I like about what Kevin Smith did is that he didn't need to answer that question. He kind of does away with it in the first half. It's kind of more of a question now that he has for Clerks 3, you know.
Yeah,
what are we gonna do?
Which, from the way I look at it, just peeking in the lives of these characters 20 years since the last one, pretty much. Oh, almost 20 years.
It's kind of like it's a reunion film of sorts, a little bit more so than Jay and Silent Bob in a way. Because Strikes Back seems more of like, now that we live in the world of MCU, it feels like more like that, where we're just bringing all the characters together. It's this big, large-scale story. This feels more like a high school reunion, where it's like you just came back to your hometown and you're seeing these guys again. Like, Dante and Randall don't go on these big, grandiose adventures. They kind of are just, like, sideline. They're the main characters, but what's charming about them is in anybody else's movie, they would be the side characters.
Yeah, it's very much where Strikes Back and Reboot are like the Avengers and the Avengers 2, where everyone gets together, and Clerks 2, and obviously Clerks 3, because Reboot did like what Strikes Back did, where it brought pretty much every character from the universe, but Reboot went ahead and gave everybody from said universe a little bit of closure, whereas Clerks in its own right is sort of bigger than that on a smaller scale. Like, you're going to have a smaller group of characters getting closure as opposed to a ton.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I like how you put it, like, bigger on a smaller scale. It's like the plot itself, like the stakes of the plot aren't as Hollywood or as grand in scale, but the emotion and how it affects the characters. That's why I think I prefer this one kind of over Strikes Back, is that Strikes Back is fun, but this one feels like, you know, more of that Kevin Smith quality that we like, where it's like, it is a comedy, but he has that emotional, there's that intelligent edge to it where it's self-aware that he does like the dick and fart jokes and stuff like that, but there's real character going on here. You know, I feel like on the one hand, you know, he's self-aware of going back to the well for Clerks 2 after, you know, he had done Jersey Girl and tried a bit of different things, but it never feels like he's cashing out on this one. It does feel like he genuinely had something to say about these characters that have been kind of lingering on his mind for a couple of years. And, you know, it always goes back to, like, where he is in his life as well, which I find really fascinating.
Yeah, it's where this one, you've got, like you said, it's more, this one's more characters and there's more emotion there with these characters as the focus, as opposed to it being a cartoon. And the thing is you can't do a Jay and Silent Bob movie by themselves and have it be this kind of movie. Their movie has to be a cartoon, which is why I appreciate Reboot like I do so much, because Reboot, I think, did the cartoon thing, but also did the emotional bits with certain characters really well.
Yeah, it's kind of a mix of both worlds in a way, where he does try to kind of Clerks to it, especially near the end. And I agree with you that some characters it works out, and other characters it leaves a little bit. But no, I totally agree with what you're going with that.
Yeah, we'll get more into it when we do talk about Reboot, because they do some emotional character growth with Jay that for 30 years, you know, you never thought that you would actually see, but it works.
Mm-hmm.
So, like we do on all the podcasts, Frank had asked you guys about, hell, almost a month ago, what you guys thought about this movie, and I went ahead and I asked again today just to see if anybody who missed out on the first wave at it, and we got a few comments then, and we got a few comments from before. So the first comment is our buddy David Anderson. He says, I loved Clerks 2. I thought it added more comedy tropes this time around then from Clerks 1. I think Elias is an awesome addition. His explanation on pillow pants and why Transformers are a gift from God are hilarious. He is definitely a Mormon, but not outright told this in the movie. I also love how Kevin Smith always tends to bring in his crew cameos. Overall, such a great and simple film. And then...
I totally agree that, number one, we're definitely going to get into Elias, that how great of an addition he is in the Clerks pantheon. But I also agree with him on the crew cameos. That's always something that I appreciate too. That
yeah, even down to just Ben Affleck to be there to look. You know
what was that? Sorry.
Even to have Ben Affleck there just to look, just to have a reaction shot. Like that's the, that's
Yeah.
the only thing he does in this movie. And he's credited as gawking customer.
It does a lot with so little, and that's why I think I like at the end of his comment, he said, great and simple film, that, again, it is going back into what I was starting on, that it does scale it back, but it's still not as, it still has a bigger budget than the first one, obviously, so it's able to, I guess, I don't necessarily want to say improve on the presentation of the first one, but kind of expand on it, you know what I mean, where we're back to very simple shots. We're back to that kind of point-and-shoot 90s style of filmmaking, but with better cameras and a couple of more wild sequences added in there.
Yeah.
But I do like that it is kind of a return to form. That's kind of where my mind went with that comment. I completely agree with you, man.
Definitely.
Thank you for commenting, too.
Yeah, definitely serious on the simple bit. John Short says, it's good, but not on the same level as his earlier work. Definitely more 2000 studio comedy DNA in the mix. And, a little bit of that I can see. A little bit. It's still, next to everything else that was happening at the time, it still feels like a Kevin Smith movie, as opposed to when you look at a Kevin Smith movie like Zack and Miri Make a Porno, where that definitely feels more like a Kevin Smith movie by way of Judd Apatow, but this one still feels like a Kevin Smith movie.
I've always been like one of those dudes who, we mentioned it in the last podcast, that he does like to take from whatever style is popular at the time. Like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was very much a comedy of the time, but he always adds in a little bit of his own shtick with it. So I'm with you on that one, where it's like I do see what John is saying to an extent, but I don't think it goes as overboard as maybe some would say it does. I know a lot of people have their opinions about the dance sequence in the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
And that is definitely a 2000s trope. But I enjoyed it.
So our buddy Dan Chase from the Cut to the Chase podcast says, one of my all-time favorite movies. Then we have Mick Howell. He says, I think it added on an already great landscape. The additional characters and subtle throwbacks make it a perfect sequel, in my opinion.
Yes. I like what he tapped into with the subtle throwbacks, that it is a sequel, but it's not as focused on doing the same thing over again, like I said before, but it's also like, like the throwbacks that it does do, are exactly that, very subtle. It's not like
they're not as in your face.
Yeah.
They're not as in your face or self-aware like Strikes Back, where it feels like it's parodying the universe. This one it's more on the lines of Mallrats and Chasing Amy with its throwbacks, where characters are mentioned, characters pop up, but they don't have their names mentioned in a way, like little nods, or sort of a lot of bits in this movie that sort of mirror or rhyme with certain bits from the first Clerks.
Mm-hmm.
And then our buddy Richard Kelly says, definitely a great sequel to an underrated movie. Elias is hilarious by existing, and Randall has one of the funniest scenes in the movie with Wanda Sykes. And then what is weird there, would you consider Clerks to be underrated?
Sorry about that. One more time, you cut out near the end.
Would you consider Clerks to be underrated?
I could see it being underrated.
Huh?
I think it's more of a mixed movie than underrated. I think the people who love it, like Dan Chase said, it's like one of his favorite movies of all time. And I could definitely see that. And I could also see how some fans of the first movie um, see how it could have missed the like. I definitely could see both sides of this coin. So underrated wouldn't be the first word I would go to.
See, he says this is a
thing,
perfect sequel to an underrated movie, claiming or saying that Clerks 1 is underrated. I wouldn't say underrated. I would say it's very celebrated. Whereas I would probably say this one is underrated.
And I think, I think when something is celebrated to the extent that the Universe is, I would say Clerks did start off very underrated, like back when it first came out. You know what I mean? Like for a movie like that to go that far is a great accomplishment. So yeah, it's more of a sequel to an underrated movie rather than an underrated movie itself. And another thing too that I think is interesting in going over the reactions of this movie is you have the people who are seeing this as a sequel to Clerks, and then there's more the people seeing it as just another addition, a sequel to the Universe. You know what I mean? And I think that is a little bit better of a way of thinking about it, because at this point it isn't just Clerks. It's a whole sprawling world where anything could happen. And I know that he went less fantastical on this one because it is a Clerk story, but you never feel like it's betraying the universe it has set up so far.
Yeah, it's like I've said, this universe works unlike any other movie universe where you can have fantasy stories, cartoon stories, and very grounded in reality stories, and no one bats an eye.
You can compare it to like discographies of like your favorite bands and stuff like that, because you have different albums for different moods, but they're all within the same artistic lens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially like a band or artist that doesn't stick with one certain genre between albums.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a real interesting way to put it. So then we have Lacey Lou, Dan Chase's girlfriend from the Cut to the Chase podcast and Slumber Party Massacre podcast. She says, "Oh, I think I missed it, but you never go ass to mouth unless you're Dan Chase."
Well, you didn't miss it, so
yeah, you didn't miss it.
Thank you so much for commenting. It's always nice to hear. And I laugh at whatever references get thrown my way from this movie. I think this one may actually be more quotable than the first one in many ways, because half the time with the first one, whenever I hear someone on the street who's not like one of my friends reference it, it's normally the 37 scene.
Yeah.
This one, I see gifs of it being shared all the time with like endless lines. There's the one ring to rule them all. Like half of Elias's dialogue is like memeable.
Yeah. It's the Pillow Pants and the Lester Fiend and the the Kelly and the what is it, Enormous Stud or Sexy Stud, and I mean there's a lot. Whereas like me and my buddies, we reference the 37-bit from the first one, but a lot of times it's Berserker, and did he just say making fuck?
Yeah.
Usually
it's those two.
Other things like that. So then the final comment is our buddy Ryan Zalewski. He says, "I know I said this in the last one, but this is the first Kevin Smith movie I ever saw. I caught it on Comedy Central as a teenager, uncensored. Easily one of the best View Askew movies. P-Monkey for life, and I'm taking it back." And so that was your comments, and if you want to join in on the fun, join the, what is our, is it just called The Basement?
Yeah, so it's I probably should have just called it Fresh from the Basement, but I called it, The Basement Fresh from the Facebook group. So if you look up The Basement and then Fresh From, we're sure to pop up.
Yeah, hell yeah. So if you want to join the fun, just join that group. It's a lot of memes. It's a lot of little bit of movie discussions and shit. And we've added a little more traffic to it here recently than we have in a while, since we've gone back to this podcast. And shit, just have fun.
We'll do something like that when we start the meme group like that, we're basically like opening our door to the basement. When you join in, like you're free to just join the discourse. You can post reviews of anything that you want. It's basically just an open discussion for whatever you want. I just like hearing what all of you guys are thinking, which is why I like that we started reading off the comments first, because it sets a nice it sets the stage for good conversation. Yes, please come on down and join. I do want to get back to doing more Film Friday reviews on there. I'm almost out of my house. I've mentioned that I've been moving for these past couple of months, and now we're finally in the last moments of it. So hopefully, there'll be more and more frequent reviews from me on there, because I enjoy doing them. It's really a nice time killer for me personally, and then just to have you guys to bounce off of, it's been fantastic.
Yeah, hell yeah. So, I guess we'll start into the review of the movie. When did you see this one first?
This was one of the first Universe movies that I watched, because I wasn't really concerned on the universe just yet. I was still kind of figuring that out for myself, that they're all kind of intertwined and connected in some way. So I had seen the first Clerks, and then I had seen Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and then this one for the first time, I think, within the same day. Like, Clerks I had done first, and then I think a couple of weeks later, I had just picked up the DVD for both, and just, like, binge-watched the two of them. And at the time, I did enjoy this one more. And in many ways, I still do, but throughout watching the first one more, they kind of hold a similar special place in my heart, because they are companion pieces. They may have been made so many years apart from each other, but at this point in my life, I can't really imagine one without the other, because they kind of, at least at this point in the universe, they were like the bookends. Aside from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back being the ending one. Like, it kind of felt fitting. That's like we start on Clerks, we end on Clerks.
Yeah, and then now we're kind of doing that again. We get our Jay and Silent Bob reboot, and then we will technically be ending on Clerks 3. So that's cool. Make Clerks a trilogy. Bookend it like that, man. 30 years of stories.
Especially since a lot of these projects that he's working on tend to be like on a start-stop basis. Like, we really don't, in my opinion, we really don't need a sequel to Mallrats, whether it's a movie or a TV show. Definitely, you can bring those characters back. I'm always willing to see that. But at this point, it seems like Reboot was already starting to get in on that tone of like, hey, like the book is like officially closing. We had like 2 epilogues, and now like here's the actual closing chapter. So if they close it on Clerks 3, it could be very fitting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I wouldn't mind. I would have liked to see what he would have done with that Mallrats sequel. I didn't like the idea of it turning into a TV show as much as it being a movie, but I was disappointed that it didn't work out, because he had everyone coming back. Everyone was cool to come back, because I would like to see a little more of Brody than just cameos. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I would have to deal with TS for another 2 hours, and I don't know how much I would like that.
Thing. It would be very nice to see these things. That's the thing. I'm not like poo-pooing on it. Like, I would always watch it, but in terms of like what feels fitting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And once we get into Reboot and I start sharing my opinions on that, which are very mixed, it still feels like that was the right movie to make at the time. You know what I mean? That's his post-heart attack movie. In many ways, it has a lot to do with that. So, like I said, it feels like it's kind of like the beginning of like, here we go. We're finally pulling this train over.
Mm-hmm.
But the movie starts in classic black and white, which I enjoyed. Until, what's it called? It starts off normal. We have basically a lot of the similar shots from the first movie of him driving to work. I like, though, that the color comes in the moment he opens up the shutters.
Yeah, it's all black and white. He opens the shutters and the fire is colored, and
yeah, it's like a weird,
shuts
like
the shutters.
almost Sin City effect.
Say what?
It's like a weird, almost Sin City effect where like everything's black and white, but then you have the color. And to me, the fire effect always looked like pretty silly, but it adds to the comedy of the situation. It's such a funny reveal that because I don't think it was a real. It looks like imposed flames within the building.
Yeah, because it's like, you know, what I like is the fact that you drive up and everything's normal until he opens the shutters and it's a full-on motherfucking blaze, but you don't see any smoke coming out of any of that building.
No.
There's like no indication that this fire has been raging for at least an hour or so, you know, but I think that does add to the comedy as well. And he calls in the fire crew and boom, all color comes in, and man, the place is demolished. And I like when Randall shows up, like nothing, Randall just doesn't notice any of it and just walks right in like he's going to work, and the fireman has to walk him out.
He's just chewing on his gum, and like, that's the thing, nothing ever phases Randall, and that's something that I would love to go into with this podcast, is basically Randall's whole story arc of this movie.
Yeah.
It's funny to think that, like, because the first movie is definitely a Dante movie. He is our central character. He is the one that, and in many ways we are still following him here, but I feel like the underlying, the real main character of the story is Randall finally growing up out of this childish malarkey, basically.
Yeah.
And it's very fascinating that in the behind the scenes of this movie, Jeff Anderson was really like the hardest one to get.
Yeah.
You know, it really, he really is usually the hardest one to wrangle in when they do these Clerks things, which I find really funny because these are like the movies that he's most well known for, but he always has to give, not that it's bad, but he always has to give Kevin a little bit of a hard time before finally being like, all right, I'll be in it. And I'm glad that it finally did work out. That was a whole big chapter of their behind-the-scenes documentary, is just getting Jeff to come back as Randall. And no, seriously, it's like this movie wouldn't be able to work without it, because by the time you get to that jail scene near the end, it's like it all comes together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like the discussion I wanted to get started now to begin, because from frame one of Randall, like, you can kind of tell that from 1994 to now, nothing has changed.
Yeah, he is the same motherfucker with no aspirations.
What I like about Dante and that shot of like how the color starts coming in is like, this is the reality dawning on Dante, that this really has been like, geez, like the past 30 years of his life, or like 25, 30 years. You know, what's next? Where does he go from here? So I do right out of the way, out of the bat. It's demonstrating what I was talking about before. We have a similar style of shooting, but with just that little bit of improvement to show that we're going into this new chapter of characters' lives.
Because it doesn't look as you know, and it's another thing too. It doesn't look as clean and squeaky as Mallrats. It doesn't look as clean as Strikes Back. It looks more like an indie film with studio paint.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it when Randall's sitting there and he says, "Fuck, now where am I going to bring chicks to fuck when my mom is home?"
Yeah, like that's his big concern. And again, it really does, like, it establishes right off the bat that's like, this is these characters' biggest concerns, that they haven't left college, basically. And I like how the Talking Heads music kicks in from there.
Yeah, what a great Talking Heads song. And just driving through New Jersey, checking out Pizza Hut. They put the Pizza Hut in frame as they mentioned the Pizza Hut in the song.
Yep. And I think this was like my first real exposure to Talking Heads. Like, of course, I had heard their music on the radio, but it was always something that you hear it and you don't really like pay much mind to it. But this song, Nothing But Flowers, I really enjoyed, and from there, like, it kind of sparked my whole fascination from there. Oh, they did this song, they did that song, and ever since they've become one of my favorite bands. But
it's sad. I am not
this movie.
very familiar with Talking Heads. I don't know. I don't really know shit. I actually don't have a single Talking Heads album.
It'd be definitely good to collect and maybe make for a nice podcast one of these days, because aside from my Oingo Boingo obsession that's burgeoned into this fucking meme page, Talking Heads is another band that I've become really fascinated with over the past couple of years, and then being able to see David Byrne live really took it to the next level for me personally. You know what I mean? So I could. There's certain bands where it's like I could talk about them for hours. But aside from that, I do like you said the editing where this was a Pizza Hut and we see it. The whole sequence is just really good because it's again very simple, but it says a lot about what our characters are going through at the time. And again, they really did pick that right song because the lyrics also reinforce it.
Yeah, and I like that the song is about these things not being there anymore and how he misses them.
Yeah.
But there's flowers. It's weird because others like there's it's very much an anti-version of that. What's that song they mowed down a forest and put in a parking lot or something like that.
Yeah.
And what the fuck is that damn song? I know Counting Crows does a version.
The Pay Paradise song?
Pay Paradise, yeah. That shit.
Build paradise, put up a parking lot.
That's what it is. And see, it's almost like that, but the reverse side of that, where like he's talking about how there's nothing but flowers now, and this used to be a Pizza Hut, this thing used to be there. And, I like that while it's showing you that stuff is still there.
But in a way, I can see how this song works, that in a way Dante misses it, because when he was younger, even as just being a clerk, it's like he never really had to deal with what that was like behind the counter. You know what I mean? The bullshit of working in the food industry, you know what I mean? So it could also be seen as like missing the customer half of it, you know what I mean? Because I worked in food, I worked at a fast food place before. It does really shift your perspective when you walk back in there, you know what I mean? Like I walked back in where I worked, and I still enjoy the food, you know what I mean? But it leaves a whole other vibe.
Oh yeah.
You know all too well now the stresses of what happened behind there.
Yeah, so he picks up Randall, and Randall just hops up on the hood, walks across his hood like a fucking asshole.
Yeah, he really, again, it keeps conveying how much he hasn't grown up and how much, with this new relationship that Dante has been established to be in, how much he's finally trying to basically play makeup with his life. And that although his options aren't the best, he feels like, this would be a greater opportunity than just being stuck in New Jersey forever. And they kind of have that conversation in the car on the way to work. And what I like about it is shot almost identically to the car scenes in the first Clerks.
Yeah.
I also get a lot of flashbacks to the flying car sketch, which I also like.
And so when they get to movies, I like all of the shots that mirror the opening of Quick Stop. When he's opening Quick Stop in the first Clerks and how he's opening, you get the coffee in the filter, and it's just showing you shit that he's doing to get the damn morning started. He chops that fake ass egg, throws it on the damn pan. Another
thing I like about number one, using movies is great because now it's been established for a bunch of different movies now that like it's a way of again keeping it in universe, but still keeping it on that smaller scale. Another thing that stood out to me is once they get to movies, they have that new and improved Jay and Silent Bob time card pops up.
Yeah, the little time card.
The original Clerks was full of those different chapter cards, basically, as transitions into different scenes.
Yeah.
And something that seemed very odd to me, it's definitely more of a nitpick. We only get the one. We get the new and improved Jay and Silent Bob, and then it doesn't really cut to any other chapter titles.
Yeah,
so as far as I'm concerned, this whole movie is the new and improved Jay and Silent Bob.
Weirdly enough, like, yeah, that is the only title card we get, and I want to say there are parts at the beginning of scenes where I expect a little title card should have been there, especially when Elias shows up. There should have been a title card there when the whistling starts, and I'm wondering if he had planned it and shot these scenes and edited them to have certain little title cards, and maybe they told him to take them out, or maybe he took them out, but he left the Jay and Silent Bob one in just because maybe he felt that it had to be in there.
Yeah, because he was editing this like while they were filming. Kevin Smith tends to edit his own work, and I remember in the behind-the-scenes documentary because they all basically hung out at this hotel that was like right across from where they were filming. So it could have very much been a thing that maybe he had it edited, and the studio could have been like, it's a little corny, but for some reason they let that one go, or maybe he just editing late into the night. You tend to forget some stuff. Maybe it was something that just
he forgot to put a couple in, then said, fuck it.
It says my fucking, just to cut off for a second, it says my Zoom call is going to cut off in less than a minute. So we might want to cut for a second.
Damn.
I guess they have like a time limit going. Let's take a break for a second just to figure this stuff out.
We're back. We had some technical bullshit with Zoom. I guess Zoom only allows you to record for about an hour or talk for about an hour.
It said, like about 40 minutes for, I don't have like a full account, but I didn't think they were still doing that where there was a time limit. Like originally I thought it was just a time limit to record and nothing else, and we're recording through your camera anyway, so that wouldn't have been a problem, but the audio was also coming in weird too, so it's like we could never catch a break in the basement when we're so far down below.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost time to upgrade a lot of this shit sometime soon too. But anyway, what the hell were we talking about? So sorry if...
They were driving to work and we were talking about the Talking Heads song, and then by the time they got to movies, where we discussed the...
okay, we were talking about the title card. Yeah, so Jay and Silent Bob show up, and apparently Jay's story, so we get, is it Ethan Suplee? Is that his name?
Yeah.
And I want to say...
hell, by the way, since Mallrats.
So I want, he's credited as weed buyer or something like that, but I wonder, could it be him playing that same character from Mallrats, Sailboat Kid?
I always just assumed, it's nice to just figure that it's him, because it doesn't have any bearing, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
Let us be reminded that Ethan Suplee's character in Mallrats is technically supposed to be Scott Mosier's character from Clerks anyway, so the whole thing is kind of... This is one of the few weird holes in the universe, is the ever-changing Willem Black.
Yeah.
Because he was the snowball guy in Clerks, and then, what's it called? It's the same name for Ethan's character in Mallrats. So it could easily still be the same guy, it really doesn't matter. I just love the hell out of the scene because they're still selling weed even after they're completely sober, and they've completely turned over a new leaf and became like born again Christians, which actually makes a lot of sense after the events of Dogma.
Yeah. Now that they've seen this shit is for real.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you have no reason to doubt, so might as well. And it says they were caught with a deplored airbag.
Now, supposedly, that is Jason Mewes' true story of when he went off the wagon so far. Supposedly.
Yeah, I remember Kevin mentioning that at one of his shows or like one of his podcasts that that's a true Jay Mewes story. So it is kind of funny that they were able to incorporate it into Clerks too, where enough time had passed from Jay Mewes' more darker period where like they could turn it into something comedic.
Yeah.
And I like how the kid who Ethan Suplee is with is like, you know, he looks like 15 or something like that. It's like, I don't know who these two characters are or what their story is, but he's like bearded and getting to like jacked Ethan Suplee. Like he's kind of in that transitional period where he's not as huge as he used to be, but he's getting those muscles. And then there's just this kid.
Yeah.
So
like,
I kind of want to know what's going on there.
Yeah, I like it when it shows them and they're jamming King Diamond, and
Yes.
they're just fucking jamming out.
This, I think, this was like a big introduction, not only to Talking Heads for me, but also my love for King Diamond, because that Welcome Home song was stuck in my head for weeks after seeing this movie. So, of course, I immediately went and did my research.
Yeah.
That was a great addition. It still keeps that berserker tone to the movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Fucking King Diamond kicks ass. Love the dude's voice. But yeah, I like it when the dude says, "Let me get a nickel bag," and we get $15, little man. Put that shit in my hand, and then he throws in a nong 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 nong. That shit.
I do kind of prefer that one, but I wonder because he originally goes right into Jungle Love. Perhaps it's because this time around they didn't have the rights to the song, so he kind of had to just go back into another Jay Mewes bit.
Yeah. And the dude's like, "What the fuck is this?" And he's like, "Man, he likes to sing. Come on." And then he's like, starts talking about
the holy fucking Bible, son.
He's like, "What is that? A fucking Bible? Hey, it's the holy fucking Bible." I remember when this had first came out, and I had seen it. A dude that I knew when I worked over at Cessna back in the day, who was a big fan of this shit. I'm not going to say his name because he not a very good person, but he was actually pissed that Jay was now into Christianity, and I remember being like, "Well, just because he's into the Bible, man, doesn't mean he's any different than what he was before. I mean, clearly he's still cussing." He's still slinging dope. He and it adds to the comedy for me because he can say more stupid shit like, "Did you know Jesus was a Jew?"
Yeah.
There's some weird shit in this book.
Just feeds more. Yeah, it feeds more into his naivety, and it shows that like he is still like in the grand scheme of things like a good guy, but again, like he really just doesn't. He's just very unaware. You know what I mean? So yeah, it really isn't a change to Jay's character at all.
Yeah.
I agree with you that it adds to the comedy that there is no change, but he believes himself to be, you know, basically, like they said, new and improved.
Yeah, and it's almost like, he's not really doing this for the right reasons. It's more like he's doing it because he thinks it'll help him. Because he thinks that, because other people have done this, that he can, it's almost like a Cartman kind of thing, where he thinks this is what people would do to stay off drugs. Because, I got off drugs, became a Christian, and actually changed my life. But he thinks that, you can just claim Bible and it all goes away.
Yeah, it just cleans off everything. So what happens after this? Because I know that there's a conversation going on in the movies, because I know they have one of those window gags where Jay and Silent Bob are like pressing their ass against it or something.
Yeah, so
or their faces.
they first walk in, and God, what are they talking about? I think they're really just
Because it wasn't the. Yeah, you were saying.
I think they're really just talking about God. I really don't know the first. I can't. We just turned this movie off like an hour ago.
I think it's more continuing what they were talking about the drive there, about their position in life, and how, again, Dante is still Dante. He's sick of where he is in life, and oh, dude, Randall actually says something pretty creepy in this moment, where he alludes to like taking like schoolgirls there to fuck on the counter or something like that.
Oh yeah, because they're talking about Becky, and he's like, I don't want to marry a teenager, and he's like, well, we have these barely legal girls, no. Because he's sort of talking about the age difference.
Mouth conversation, but it's something that stood out to me a lot more this time around watching it, that how much the times have changed, where he's like, I wouldn't say bragging, but he's very open about what he does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It leads into the classic ass to mouth discussion, so that's, I think, another reason why it stood out to me this time around, because a lot of people quote the ass to mouth scene. I think it's one of, I guess you could compare it to like the 37 Dicks moment. You know what I mean? It's raunchy, disgusting sex talk, but done in a very colorful, witty way where the characters are like bouncing off of each other and stuff like that. But the whole time I was just like, wait, could we rewind for a second? 'Cause that's exactly how I put it. It's like we have a bunch of these barely legal teens who are just like itching for, because he has a car, basically, I think is what he says.
Yeah.
Because doesn't he mention that like his car was like shut down or something like that, or something happened to his car and that's why he had to go in with Dante that day?
Yeah, because he's like, why don't you ever drive? He even mentions that when they go on the little go-kart ride. So Elias shows up. I don't know why all this is starting to escape me, but
It's funny, right? Yeah, if you watch it and then it immediately like kind of rearranges. I love the music that they play when Elias shows up. You immediately see, like, number one, he's a guy in his own world, kind of like the two Clerks, but to a completely like other kind of craziness where they're like grown teenagers, the Clerks, right? But like Elias is a little kid, straight up.
yeah. Yeah, Elias is barely ready for the prom. He's like that young. Like his character's got it. No, he says he's 19, doesn't he?
What was that?
He says that he's 19, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's 19, but he acts like he's basically like 10, 12 at best. Because he's obsessed with the Transformers. It also is just because like it's clearly like his sheltered life and his upbringing and stuff like that. I like what was said in the comments. That's like, yeah, he does have a bit of that Mormon vibe to him. Very weird, antisocial character. But again, there is, much like Jay, there's that naivety to it though, where the stuff he says, like, it comes out of his mouth so casually, and he's so unaware of what the craziness is.
Yeah.
Again, back to pillow pants, where that's just that's his normal. That pussy trolls exist.
Yeah, like I like that they don't really mention what religion his parents are in, because it could be hardcore Pentecostal, it could be hardcore Mormon. It really doesn't matter because there are a lot of people like him in real life, and I've met and known many before. I've worked with a few in my life, and it is weird, man, when you hear some of these people talk with the kind of stuff that they were taught. But what I think is funny
Because
is
it's not really their fault either. Again, it's just like how it is, and it's fascinating. Like, and again, I like how Kevin Smith taps into that with his writing. That it's like we've all been in these kind of conversations before, where again, it's like there's nothing really wrong, but it's like just that fundamental difference between the two of you. You know what I mean? And I like how, especially when they do get into the pillow pants discussion, like they even go as far as to like buy out the music from The Shining to put in the background, just to emphasize like the distance between everyone else and Elias.
yeah. So when he shows up, it shows you that he is just a very happy person with a very happy family, and Randall clearly doesn't like him. But what I like about him is the fact that, yeah, you see how weird his upbringing is, but they make him a very likable character. He has a lot of funny shit to say, and there's a charmingness to Elijah that I think really works with these characters. And like in the comments section, we mentioned he's a great addition to the cast, and I actually can't wait to see him return in Clerks 3, because the way they do this, when with the original Clerks, you have Randall and his rants about Star Wars. Well, now you have rants about Lord of the Rings and how this kid loves Lord of the Rings. Fucking Randall hates it. Talks up Star Wars, but the Lord of the Rings fans are talking shit about the prequels. And so what I would really love to see is, and then he mentions Transformers as well, how he's such a big Transformers fan. I would really love to see in Clerks 3 them talking about how shitty those Transformer movies turned out to be, and how shitty the Hobbit trilogy turned out to be, and how shitty the new Star Wars movies wound up being as well. Because there's been a lot of Lord of the Rings, a lot of Star Wars, and a lot of Transformers in the past 15 years since this movie came out that I would like to see them get into a rant about.
And it's like they're all on equal ground now. That's what I agree with you that Elias is, I think, the biggest sell for me when it comes to the new Clerks movie. That, number one, Trevor Furman, I think his name is, like he's not really an actor. He had worked with Jeff Anderson before on a independent film that they had done together, and that's what kind of influenced Kevin Smith to bring him onto Clerks 2, because he liked what he saw. Now we get to see an even older Elias amongst even older Clerks, and I really hope they do tap into the modern Hollywood franchise, because they've all returned, they've all pretty much flopped, depending on who you ask. So it's perfectly right and it's got to be like somewhere in the opening scene. You know what I mean? It can't be Clerks without some Star Wars discussion.
Yeah.
And I do really like how Elias is kind of like this face of the new generation for them. Like, there is this disconnect, but at the same time, the sad fact is he's like one of the few people it kind of makes sense would get along with Dante and Randall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dante dreams of more. Randall has no ambition, but like they're kind of like, again, societal rejects. That's why they're working at the movies, you know what I mean? So it takes, this out of touch person completely, several years out of their league, to kind of make this connection. And by the end, there is a fully formed friendship there that forms, especially between him and Randall.
Yeah. Let me stop you there. I need to just try and figure out this audio, man.
I got you.
Okay, I just had to fix a few audio problems. So
It's
sorry
been
for that.
quite a day, basement dwellers. Let me tell you, the audio has been pretty crazy this time around, more so than ever. But what does happen next in Clerks 2? We were talking about how with Clerks 3, I am excited to see Elias come back, especially now that he's older now too, so he's more experienced. We can see how different he's become, but also how similar he's been. So yeah, he's definitely my main selling point on Clerks 3, because he's probably my favorite character of this movie.
Yeah.
Every time he shows up, I don't think he has a bad joke in the movie.
Yeah, so at this point, so I believe Becky shows up, and
Yeah, because the ass-to-mouth conversation, she hasn't even gotten through the door yet, and Randall's already reeling her into this madness.
yeah, because Randall's talking about how these new younger girls are all into ass to mouth, and asking Dante if he's ever gone ass to mouth, and he asks Elijah, and Elijah's like, that's gross, da-da-da. But yeah, she comes in, and he asks her, and she's like, I haven't even put my purse down. But yeah, he's talking shit at first, because she gets out of her car, and Dante notices her and waves, and he's like, what the fuck, man? You know she's coming in here. Why are you waving at her now? But she comes in, and you can already tell that something is up between the two of them, next to this new supposed perfect life Dante is about to have. But it's another one of those, when you look at it, it's another one of those Caitlin Bree situations where in Clerks he has this perfect chick. I forgot her name, but he gets all insecure about the snowball situation, and keeps thinking that him and Caitlin Bree are going to get back together, but she's clearly not into him. And it's one of those. It's almost he's doing the same shit as well. He is not. It's been 10 years in these characters' lives, and he's still doing the same shit as far as relationships go. He is.
Yeah, he never really learned his lesson. I think Veronica, the girl's name, was in the first one.
Yeah.
That they were really a good thing together, but yeah, he kind of gets obsessed over this secondary woman in his life, until it becomes all he could think about.
Yeah, so, because this new girl, played by Kevin Smith's wife, God, what is even her name?
In the movie or in real life?
In the movie.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Was it Emma?
Yes, I always just remember her as Kevin Smith, as Jen Schwalbach, basically.
Yeah, Saz just said Emma, so I believe it's Emma.
Yes, it is Emma.
But yeah, so what I do like with what they do here is they could have made her a bitchy character who is just controlling him, and they sort of allude to it, but they clearly show that she really does like him, because she doesn't do anything remotely horrible to him at all. She's actually, she makes the little joke about, yeah, I got a thing for you, no, but it comes off more as she's teasing, like she says when she does it. So I do like the fact that they don't make her a stereotypical bitch that wants to control him. She's clearly wanting to set up a life with him and, you know, get a house from there with her family and stuff. And fucking everything's basically got to be really nice and easy for him, but he doesn't want nice and easy. He wants a little bit of chaos in there, which is another reason why he can't get rid of Randall, because he needs that chaos in his life. He needs a little bit of uncertainty and shit like that. And he doesn't know this, but he eventually learns this by the end of the movie. But I do like the fact that she's not a stereotype bitchy girlfriend, and who the worst thing she does to him in the movie is when, you know, she catches him making out with Becky. You know, she hits him in the nuts and smashes the cake in his face, but it's well deserved. So
Yeah.
So I do like that aspect about it. You know, you can clearly see that, you know, they might not work down the road. Who knows? We haven't seen these characters together before or after, so who knows how it would have turned out. But like I said, I do like that, you know, she actually is a little more three-dimensional than just there to be a bitch.
Yeah, it's like she's kind of inadvertently or unintentionally controlling. You know what I mean? Because Dante is so aimless that he kind of feels like she's this controlling figure in his life when really she's having the time of her life. You know what I mean? She's excited for all this. She's nothing but supportive. She doesn't talk, like, she comes and visits him at his job. That, let's be real, like, a lot of women would probably be very judging of, you know what I mean? But yeah, I do enjoy that it's a little bit more realistic than the typical villain role. I would say the character is a little bland at times, but she again serves that purpose in Dante's life that again he has this out. This could actually work out really well if he just got out of his own head and just went for it. But it's like you said, he's kind of self-sabotaging his way because he doesn't know what he wants even now. And he's never really aware of it, so subconsciously he's always kind of sabotaging his way out. It's like you said, he can't live without Randall because in many ways Randall is that little devil on his shoulder, or that side of him that he always kind of wanted to be, that assertiveness, that I don't give a shit kind of attitude. So yeah, I think it really works out for Dante's arc in this, and it makes more of the repercussions fall on him rather than having her be a villainous person where you can point the finger at her. Well, it's like, oh, well, she wasn't really that great anyway. It's like, no, all his actions, like it is nice that he ends up with Becky at the end, but let's not forget that he still did something really fucked up.
Yeah, he cheated on his girlfriend and got a girl pregnant, and fucking instead of doing the right thing and ending it when he should have, he basically got busted.
Because that's the thing, he admires, like Randall is childish, but he's assertive, and although he's not friendly with people, he's very direct when telling people to fuck off and stuff like that. Dante's the complete opposite of that. That like if he has a problem with something, like unless it's Randall, you know what I mean? Especially with women, he's not very vocal, and that's kind of been the kind of crux of his whole character since Clerks 1, is that he's so undecisive that he can't even really form thoughts with himself, let alone explain it to his significant other, which leads him to make these decisions and do these things that just put him in these awful situations.
Yeah.
And I like that by the end of this movie, he does learn a lesson, and he does actually start to begin a new life for himself in a way that he didn't imagine, but allows himself to have what he needs. It's like you said, he does need that chaos, but it needs to be that controlled chaos. And it's kind of surprising that the idea at the end does come from Randall. So it takes the chaos to kind of bring him into that happy ending that he needs.
Yeah, hell yeah. So,
It's well done, Kevin. Like this,
Yeah.
this might actually be one of his best scripts. I would love to get a copy of it and see like maybe what was added and taken out and stuff like that. Kind of what we were talking about before with the chapter cards and stuff like that. Like what could have been in there, what maybe was studio decisions, what you know, what was Kevin's original vision gonna be.
yeah. So, we have at this point, it's really weird because I actually felt this way with the first Clerks, where everything felt like little short vignettes or little short scenes, where this movie kind of does that too, and I'm kind of remembering things out of order, just like I did with the first Clerks. But there's a little more structure here, but I'm still having trouble remembering things in order. So there's the bit with, he pulls out the onion ring and he says, "One ring to rule them all," and we get the funny ass little bit with, there's only one return, and it's not of the king, it's of the Jedi, and you have the other Lord of the Rings fan. I love that scene, them going back and forth like that. "Oh, I'm Anakin Skywalker." And then when they're talking to Elias, so when Randall's talking to Elias, and his whole explanation on how he just heard that they're making a live action Transformers, and how God made man and man made Transformers, that it's okay to like it. Well, what's so funny is there was a church I used to go to back when I was about 13, and when I was starting to be like, yeah, I don't want to go here, now I was never into Pokemon, but there was a lot of people that I was friends with there that were, and I remember the lady up there, she was the youth director, and she was talking about how Pokemon was evil because the characters evolve and it promotes evolution, and I was like, it's a fucking cartoon, I'm like,
It's such a stretch.
yeah, I'm like, let people enjoy their fucking cartoons, Jesus Christ. And so that was always...
And then later down the line, there was also, same thing with like Harry Potter too. There was that whole shit where it's like, oh, it's promoting witchcraft, it's devil worship, and when, you actually get down to it, it's nothing absolute. And it's been like that since the dawn of time too, like with stuff like...
Yeah, we're just not allowed to burn people for it anymore.
70s, 80s.
We're not allowed to burn people for it anymore, so... Yeah, it's exactly like it's always been, but thankfully without the torture.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that exchange is real funny, and well, fuck, man. But then they start scaring him and singing the King Diamond lyrics. He's like, I don't
Let
like.
me help you where you can, Mama. And then Jay coming from around the fucking drive-through, like, don't they start like fucking choking him with like the headset or something like that? Or no, they start like shaking him up, and he runs with the headset still attached to him, which flings him back.
Yeah, and that is real funny to me with they're singing King Diamond, and he's like, I don't like to talk about dark forces.
Yeah. And I love the reaction shot that they cut back to when they're singing King Diamond, and then you have Silent Bob in the corner just having a really good time with it, just kind of dancing to himself.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the best Silent Bob facial performances in this universe. There's a lot of especially if you check out like GIFs of Silent Bob and stuff like that get shared on social media and stuff like that. I've noticed that a lot of them come from Clerks. There's just there's all over the place. But there's the Jay and Silent Bob dance that they do while they're listening to fucking Jackson 5, where they're kind of doing that worm back and forth. Really good shit. Like, Kevin Smith never really gives his acting much credit, but I think it gets better and better the more time he has with Silent Bob. You know, even with Reboot as well. Like, I might have, like, some criticisms with, like, story or certain scenes, but I always have a good time with this Silent Bob performance, because I feel like he's always finding ways to emote and express visually. You know, I mean, it gets more and more, you could say cartoony, but it's never not entertaining. So this is definitely one of my favorite Silent Bob performances out of the different movies.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. I actually cannot fucking wait to get to Reboot, man, and hear what you have to say, because I think, you know, ever since we've started this back, you've got me like, damn, man, I can't wait to hear what he has to say about this. Because it sounds like you have some fairly strong opinions about it.
Mixed is more like it, because it's like, I wouldn't say strong. Overall, like, I enjoyed the movie, but there are just certain moments that either weren't my cup of tea, or some jokes that I felt like fell flat, and then other moments that I absolutely loved. So I think it would make for a really interesting discussion, because it's such a mix of different talking points, you know what I mean, for various different reasons, but I'm also so happy it exists. It's definitely going to be one of the funner discussions that we're going to get into, because it's a quick movie, but so much happens in it too, more so than Strikes Back. There's 10 times like more characters, more time has passed even from like Clerks 2, that like there's all that backstory and setup and stuff like that. So yeah, you guys definitely got to stay tuned for that, because I can't wait to really unload. But I need to rewatch it too, because even with the movie as simple as Clerks 2, you could see, like, we remember the scenes but not the order. With Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, on top of the fact that it's a new movie, it's like, yeah, I gotta definitely refresh my memory and take some notes. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, hell yeah. So what happens next? So I believe that, so Dante's girlfriend shows up, and they're making out on the swing, and they're just talking about, you know, getting ready to move the next day, going to Florida. Randall shows up being weird, just watching them, and she flashes him, you know, telling him to go away. And he's like, why did you tell him, well, why did you do that? Now he's going to think that you want to have a three-way with us. And yeah, so Randall walks up after she goes away and says, I think your girlfriend wants to have a three-way with us. Funny little bit. Then we get so he walks into Becky's office, and she's looking at something, and she's just like clearly distraught. She's like, fuck, or oh shit. And he walks in there, she's trying to hide it from him. And they're just talking, and fucking, so is this the same time he starts doing her nails?
Yeah. And this is apparently like an average thing that they do with each other. So if the sexual tension wasn't already there, by the way, I think Tarantino came in for this part. But it's already set up right off the bat that this is kind of the real relationship that's being established. But Becky also establishes this thing that she doesn't believe in romantic love.
Yeah. How it goes.
Which kind of gives me flashbacks to Chasing Amy in a way, where it's not necessarily a guy trying to get with a lesbian, but it's a guy trying to get with a girl who's like openly like not, or like basically saying she's not available. You know what I mean? Something that seemingly shouldn't work, he's trying to make work, and eventually it does, but the situation he has to go through for, you know what I mean? It does, it harkens back to Chasing Amy vibes.
Yeah, I can see that. And Randall busts in a few times and just trying to catch him doing something.
Yes, exactly. And already, like, he's been on Becky's bad side since the moment she walked through the door with the ass to mouth thing, because she immediately puts him on an Elias job. That's an Elias job. Yeah, well, that comparison to Pink and Brown Eyes just made it a Randall job.
Yeah.
And then I think Elias was like, burn, or something like that. He's like, shut the fuck up, GoBot.
Yeah, I like he keeps calling him GoBot, but I think it is cool when that one guy is sort of offensive, you know, don't. Goddamn, what's his name? Jason Lee shows up as, God, I can never remember his character's name.
I think it's like Lance Dowd or something like that.
Dowd.
I always call him the Mad Duckets guy.
Yeah, the Mad Duckets guy walks up in there, and it's always fun to see Jason Lee play a character in these movies, even if it's for a little second. And so, weirdly enough, it is sort of it's sort of a weird reunion of sorts, because, you know, Jason Lee and Ethan Suplee are both in Mallrats, and then they are both the main characters in My Name is Earl.
Which is funny that I just realized they're both in this movie together. And My Name is Earl actually has a really big impact over the filming of this movie, because it's not like a huge change of things, but like the character of Lance Dowd, when Kevin Smith wrote it, didn't have the mustache and the sideburns. And I think he tried to convince Jason Lee, like, hey, can you get rid of that? And they were in either the middle of filming or they were about to come back for another season of My Name is Earl. And I think the way he put it, Kevin Smith was like, dude, this is like my identity now. I can't get rid of Earl.
Yeah, and then, you know, he might have been contractually obligated to keep the mustache and sideburns instead of shaving him off. So it
works better too when he puts on those douchebag sunglasses and does the finger guns. Like it's such a small scene, but it becomes such a memorable thing, because then he's also we find out that he's pickle fucker.
Yeah. Goddamn pickle fucker. Had to take a bite of it.
And then there's the fucking damn bro, this shit tastes like piss and flies.
Yeah, so yeah, they slap. Man, oh god, it's so gross. He scoops ice out of the piss urinal, and he fucking throws flies on the burger. Man, it is so gross. And he hands it to Jay and Silent Bob. They're like, yeah, we got some free food. And they're straight up, he's just chowing down on that shit. But I do like how Jay is just like, he's just still eating it. You know, he's like, this shit tastes like piss and flies. As if like, damn, number one, you know it tastes horrible and you're still eating it. And then, how do you know what piss and flies taste like? Those two distinct things.
He buys it and he's like, yeah, no, I'm probably not going to like it though, am I? It's such like, the whole scene, he just showed up just to see that they're working at the movies.
Yeah, because he's doing so great.
It's what you mentioned before. What's up?
Because he's doing so great. He was shit on in high school with everybody, and he made it, and he fucking sold his little company to Amazon and made all that money. Just wanted to go in there and see how shitty these people that used to make fun of him are doing. So, yeah, I like that.
It's one of the more memorable cameos in there because he actually has like vocal lines. Because we have cameos from Ben Affleck where it's just a look, like you said before, and that's all it is. But for some reason, or maybe he gets like one line, but it's very little. This is an actual like whole sequence. Then there's the Wanda Sykes sequence as well, which I love.
Yeah, so coming up, we have Randall messing with the movies internet, which I do like is still there from Jay and Silent Bob, and he's setting up Dante's going away present, which is a donkey show, a traveling donkey show, and he's telling Elias, and Elias is like, no, that's bestiality. Oh my God, Elias. What I like is Elias is clearly sheltered, but being around Dante and Randall is allowing him to see more of the world, even if being around Randall is showing him things that maybe they all shouldn't be seeing.
Yeah, things that may be illegal in most countries.
Yeah. But I do like the fact that Elias is, he doesn't want to be a part of it, but he's still like, sticking around.
Because at the end of the day, these are still like the closest thing to friends that he has, and Randall takes advantage of that. He knows that like he could blow it, but if he just twists Elias the right way, it will all work out. And he's always trying to convince Elias of what he's doing is like the coolest shit ever.
Yeah.
And it's that smugness, it's that confidence that Randall gives off. That like I feel like Jeff Anderson's performance never misses a beat. And same thing with Brian O'Halloran too. That's the thing is that our main characters, aside from Becky, like they aren't mainstream actors, and they're carrying the film really well. And then Rosario Dawson being the one, because she kind of became the face of all the posters and stuff like that. She actually does really good at supporting basically the three unknowns. I wouldn't say Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson are unknown to the Kevin Smith fans, but from a wider Hollywood perspective, you know what I mean?
Yeah, from a wider Hollywood audience, definitely. And what's crazy is originally they were going to have Kevin Smith's wife play Becky, but the Weinsteins were like, no, we want a more well-known actor in this spot, and they actually asked Bryce Dallas Howard and somebody else, I forgot who it was, but they both turned it down, and they went with Rosario Dawson. So it's funny that, like you were saying, that the main cast are, to a wider Hollywood audience, are unknowns, and the one fairly well-known Hollywood actor is playing a supporting role in the film.
Which I'm excited for Clerks 3 as well, that she's a supporting role here, but hopefully she'll be more of a leading act in this new one.
Yeah.
And I just love the energy that Rosario Dawson puts into the role, because I like those choices that she makes with her career, that these are roles that a lot of big actresses, like you said, turn down. And she kind of just gives it a go because she just wants to see the challenge. You know what I mean? Like, this was around the same time she was doing like Sin City. I think, what else was she doing around that time? I love most of the roles she takes on just because it is a wide array of characters, that she doesn't really limit herself to one genre. And I think I can't really imagine any other character playing this role. Because even in like the blooper reels and stuff like that, you could tell she's just having fun with the whole process. So yeah, I think they really lucked out on getting just the right mainstream actor to be in a more prominent role. Because it's a tough thing to do, man. Like, if you pick the wrong face or the wrong personality who doesn't like mesh well with the project or isn't as passionate about it, you know what I mean? It's like you could tell immediately it can go right downhill. But she matches them in charisma and stuff like that, and I don't know, man. I'm so happy that she continues to collaborate with Kevin Smith, because like she rocks at reading his dialogue, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a damn good surprise. What's funny is I didn't know who she was before I saw this movie, and in fact, the only other thing I could think of her being in that I've seen is doing the voice of the one character on Rob Zombie's Haunted World of El Super Beasto cartoon movie.
Yeah, that's. Oh my God, we gotta do an episode on El Super Beasto. That's a movie that, damn, if you become friends with me, odds are you're gonna see that fucking demented movie.
Fucking love that movie. We gotta do a whole Rob Zombie retro like we're doing with the Kevin Smith. Dead ass for real. But yeah, that movie is fucking great. But yeah, that's the only other movie I could think of her in. But fucking, so what happens next? I guess Randall's getting pissed, and so he has to blow off some steam. So they go to the go-kart place, and this right here sort of mirrors driving to the funeral in a way, because they do two bits.
Yeah.
They do two bits like this, and it's almost like going to the funeral, but they do the go-kart ride. And yeah, it's whatever. A buddy of mine at work he hates this scene. He thinks it's nothing, like it's a nothing scene, but at least it has a purpose because it shows you that Randall is having a hard time dealing with the fact that his only friend is going to be leaving the next day, and he doesn't know how to handle it. And it's character growth. Like, there's a purpose for them to do this. So I agree with him that, yeah, I could see it being a boring scene for people, but at least it has a purpose for what it's doing. And then when they get
That's
back...
what I was saying. I would say it has more purpose than the dance sequence, because the dance sequence is really supposed to, like, really ignite that flame between Becky and Dante, where... It's like you said, this is kind of like Randall's coping mechanism. And again, I've constantly been comparing them like as man-children or as like teens who never grew up. It's like, it's a very juvenile thing to do that's his kind of calming routine. He likes to go to the go-karts.
Yeah, and they just leave on the clock to go do this. Anywhere else, you're fucking fired. Anywhere else, you are fired. In fact... anywhere else, they would have been fired within the first hour of their day. At least Randall. So they get back, and it's a madhouse. It's looking like...
I was going to say, if not for going to the go-karts, what happens next? You're most certainly fired.
Yeah.
You're never coming back.
The fucking end. So they come back, and it's easily the lunch rush, and one of the only times you see customers in this fast food joint. Like you have
the one time it's packed to the brim.
Yeah, like you have a few customers come in, or you might see a handful of people sitting down at a table. But this is the first time you're kind of actually seeing shit going down, making food, serving people, and shit like that. And she's pissed because they have left, and Elias, I keep wanting to say Elijah. Elias he's just overwhelmed back there. So they get in there, and they're bitching and complaining, and
one of my, I hate to cut you off, one of my favorite lines during that moment is, so Elias is like, I don't think these fries are looking too good. It's like, oh, God damn it, man. Step away from the fryer before you burn us all alive.
Yeah. Yeah, when he was the one that left the coffee pot on.
He would know, right? So Randall just kind of gets lost in his own rant. And if you've seen the movie, like, you know what he says, and it completely derails the entire fucking lunch rush that goes on.
Yeah, so you have Wanda Sykes and her husband, played by Earthquake. Don't know who he is, but I saw that his name is Earthquake in the cast on Wikipedia. But yeah, so he says pea monkeys, which I never heard before. I've never heard that before this movie, and actually I've never heard it outside of this movie. So that was new to me. And then when he says, "Why can't I say this?" and he's like, "Well, because it's a racial slur." He's like, "No, it's not. N-word is." I'm just like, I love how he just throws it out there all nonchalant. It's like, God damn, dude, like you're making it worse. And then
He goes down the whole list.
yeah,
At like peak volume in the middle of the thing. So yeah, you would be fired 10 times over. And then he tries to justify it by like, my grandmother used to call me that and she was the sweetest woman in the whole wide world, and then just hits us with another, like, well, she used to call a broken bottle.
yeah,
So,
the N-word knife, and talk about how
and I love
the Sheeny curse.
I love Dante's reaction to when he mentions the knife.
Yeah. Oh my God. But yeah, so and then I like that, they're like, "Oh, we're sorry, we're gonna give you your money back, and you can have the food for free." She don't want the fucking food, but her husband clearly does, and he's still trying to take the food, and he's all, I'm just gonna take the food. She makes.
He goes, "Why can't we take the food? You can't taste racism."
Yeah, you can't taste racism. That shit was fucking hilarious. But yeah, so the customers clear out and Elias is cleaning up the mess. But we gotta talk about the pussy troll bit, because he's like, "You're a virgin." And what's so funny is like, you just now realize that this man is a damn virgin. Like, you've worked with him for like a year and you haven't, I'm sure that there's shit that has come out of this kid's mouth in the past year that should have raised that flag. But I love it. He says, "Well, we can't because of pillow pants." And when she's young, they put a pussy troll inside of her and he'll bite off my dick. And she pees him out on her 21st birthday to keep her from having premarital sex. And the look on Randall's face during this entire sentence is fucking hilarious. And like you said, when it's playing the theme from The Shining, it just sounds demented as fuck. But I love how this kid, the actor is telling this story this outlandish, completely unbelievable story, as if he actually does believe this shit.
No, and his whole tone changes too. Like, he's definitely playing it up to play more of like a horror character version of Elias, but no, he says it so genuinely. And then if you didn't think it was worse enough, it's like, well, did you ever kiss him on the mouth? And it's like, oh, well, that's a problem with Lester Feeny.
Her mouth troll. Like, oh my God. And fucking...
There's a weird, during the behind the scenes, I think it was fucking Harvey Weinstein, of all people, one of the producers on this movie, suggested to Kevin Smith that they should actually do a cutaway gag where you see the pussy troll. And in light of new information, well, not new information, but in light of the information about Harvey Weinstein that had come out, like, doesn't that just make a lot of sense that, of course, he'd be the one who wants to see the pussy troll?
Yeah. Fucking...
And they were... And Kevin Smith had no idea how to react to this. He's like, how would you... Because he's like, it's funny to leave it up to your imagination. Because it's so fucking stupid. But he's like, how would you even represent the pussy troll? So the idea that they came up with, and they were going to actually film it was going to be a pair of like two giant wooden legs. And then Jason Mewes was going to dress up like a fucking like jester or troll or something. And he was just going to do like a little dance underneath the legs.
Yeah, I don't think that would have worked.
No, yeah, and then his idea was, he's like, there's no, once they actually like came up with that idea, like, there's no way we're going to fucking cut that into this scene that's already funny as it is. So then they tried to bargain that, like, could it just be like an after credits thing, like, once the movie's already done, we should cut to the pussy troll. But thank God they were able to actually cut that out. But Jason Mewes was actually disappointed. He's like, what? So wait, I'm not playing the troll now?
Oh, shit.
But that's easily one of the weirdest behind the scenes. Like, I always remembered that, because it's like, it adds nothing to the movie, you know what I mean? Like, on the one hand, it's a gripe of mine, because I hate, like, studio interference, but it's like, you definitely got to find this clip of Kevin Smith going into it, because he's always able to put an entertaining way, an entertaining spin on that story.
So what happens next? Is this where, okay, so we've had a few scenes where she's talking with Dante about, you know, does he really want to move and all this, and but she finally busts in there and she's saying, you know, are you afraid to get married? Are you scared of getting married? And he says, well, not afraid of getting married. I'm afraid that, you know, I can't dance. And, you know, no, I can't, I don't want to be able, I can slow dance, but I can't make a show of it, no. So we get another scene that, in a way, mirrors a scene from the first Clerks where they play their hockey game on the roof. So him and her go up there to dance on the roof. And I do like it at first. She asked Jay and Silent Bob if they have their boombox and to play something danceable, and they turn on the King Diamond song, and she's like, no, something a little less demonic. And I love it when Jay pulls the tape out, puts the other one in, and it takes him like 4 tries to get that damn tape deck to close. That's real funny. But then they turn on the ABC song, and to me it starts off fine at first, because this is a scene that I think is like, It gets a little on the unnecessary side of things, where, all right, it starts off, she's dancing, she's like, no, follow my lead, do. He ain't so good at it, so he sits down, and like you said, it's there to be, the scene is there to be their little bonding moment. That's like, yeah, something more is going to come out of this, whether she says she doesn't believe in romantic love or not, something's going to come out of this. He's going to realize, she's the one that he needs, but he sits down. And so there isn't really any kind of romantic exchange here. He's just watching her dance while, and I think
it cuts to him sitting there, and I do like that shot because he is just watching her, but the smile on his face, like you see him basically falling in love with her right then and there.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
What is really funny is she does claim to not believe in romantic love, but then she continues to like dance to one of like the most upbeat romantic songs, and she's doing choreography of her heart beating and stuff like that. So it's definitely some mixed signals going on. Like, yes, the context is that she's trying to teach him, but like it gets to a point where she starts getting really into it. I don't know. I think overall it's a fun sequence, but you do definitely know where it starts to go over the top, and it's where Jay and Silent Bob show up staring right at the camera with their pigtails. Because I like it up until like I said, I'll defend the whole thing, but if I'm getting nitpicky, up until there.
Yeah,
I like when Randall does the classic Wrangler walk across the fucking table. That's hilarious.
All that is fine. All that is cool to me. Like, I'm cool with, the people, I'm cool with Elias doing his thing, doing the little DJ thing. I'm cool. I like Randall doing his swagger walk, and the dude pissing in the bathroom and getting down, that's cool, that's all fine.
Even the pissing dude works.
But then, like you said, when it cuts to Jay and Silent Bob with the pigtails and you got this massive choreographed dance scene. I do think it's funny because we have look at some of the people in this dance crowd. There is a nun. There's like an Indian lady. But I mean, it's a charming little scene, but it's one that it did what it needed to do. It did what it needed to do a lot quicker than the entire segment lasted. Because at that point, I'm like, all right, let's go ahead and move on, But, I mean, it's a fine scene all in its own, but it's probably the only scene in the movie that I can do without. They could have cut it.
I feel like it's one of those scenes, that got overly harped on because it is so out of nowhere. And I think in Kevin's mind, that's what the comedy of it is that, like, I get it. Like, it is absurd that all of a sudden this impromptu dance sequence breaks out. And I agree with you. Like, the faces in the crowd are, you know, all different kinds of people that is kind of funny to pick it up. But it's exactly what you said, that the point of the scene has already been made. And that's kind of what makes it, like, why we're talking about it right now, basically. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to critique it, but it's like you can't shake off this feeling that we can move on now, you know?
Yeah. Like it's not a bad scene at all. And in fact, the dancing's cool and all that. You know, it's not a bad scene, but yeah, it's one of those. All right, let's move on. Let's get on with it. Because already the movie's an hour and 57 minutes long. So you could have trimmed that, and But I mean, really, we would have only lost about what, a minute and a half if you trimmed that one bit. So you're not losing much, but you're not gaining much. You know what I mean?
It goes a long way, like little trims. You know what I mean? So like, you know, it's a love it or hate it moment, really.
Yeah.
And overall, I would say, like, yeah, it's harmless, but unnecessary.
Yeah, it's not a scene that I hate or anything. It doesn't ruin the movie or anything, but it just needs to be said.
I do like the way it ends, though, because it really is building up to this reveal. And maybe that's the reason why he did it, that he kind of overloads your senses with this upbeat, positive dance routine to the Jackson 5. And not only does he basically, it's not a super big bomb on Dante's part. Like, we all know that he has feelings for her, but he drops the bomb on her. He goes, I love you.
Yeah.
And then she drops the fucking nuclear bomb on him.
That she is pregnant. And
then he drops the pregnant woman.
yeah, he fucking drops her, and then it's like, oh shit, I'm sorry. And it's like, damn, dude, you're dropping your pregnant lady, man. But yeah, so he basically like runs out. And so yeah, earlier in the movie when they're talking about when they had fucked in the store after it closed, and she mentioned mayonnaise getting in her cooch, and I'm like, did you really think that was mayonnaise?
Yeah.
But he runs out there, and the first person he talks to is fucking Randall, talking about how she's pregnant.
Which bad, I love how, as much as Dante should know better, like, the friendship between them is so strong that time and time again, like, you know, he immediately goes straight to Randall, who, what's it called? You know, he's gonna blow it.
Yeah.
In a matter of minutes.
And he damn sure knows that Randall will blow it. And not even a couple minutes after it goes down. But yeah, so Jay's trying to piss, and they slam the door on him a couple times. And, but, so, I don't know, I'm sure we've skipped over this, but the Goodbye Horses scene with Jay, how he's bored out there, and so Silent Bob turns on Goodbye Horses. Who sings that? Do you know?
Well, sorry, you're cutting out a little bit. I was trying to follow.
The Goodbye Horses scene, Jay's bored, and so Silent Bob turns on Goodbye Horses, and we get the Buffalo Bill Silence of the Lambs scene with the "Would you fuck me? I'd fuck me," and putting on the lipstick. And I thought it was great because they cut it there, and then later on they walk out, and then boom, the mangina shot right there, which when I first saw the movie,
doing it freely, like out in the open.
Yeah, when I first saw the movie, I was like, all right, cool reference, and I wasn't expecting them to go full mangina shot with the tuck and all that, and then so I appreciated that scene a little more because I was like, all right, y'all fully fucking went there with it. But yeah, so they're out there.
I think that was Kevin Smith's also another one of his arguments against showing the pussy troll is like we already have Jay Muse doing the Silence of the Lambs. It's like what more like could we do? And again, that's another one of those moments that gets highly memed and highly gifted a lot. So going back into why this is one of my favorite Jay and Silent Bob iterations, they're just always hitting you with a memorable moment.
Yeah.
Like, they really don't waste any, aside from the pigtails, like, they really don't waste any screen time with them.
Yeah.
And they don't become obnoxious either. Like, you know what I mean? They use them somewhat sparingly.
Yeah.
Like, kind of back to where they were in the first Clerks. So, hopefully with Clerks 3, he can kind of do that as well. Because I know they're his big characters, Jay and Silent Bob, but that's kind of like the fun of Clerks, is that now they're kind of back to being like the C-3PO and R2-D2 of the story.
Yeah. So he's telling him about how Becky's pregnant, and so I guess does Becky run out there? And yeah, she runs out there, and the first fucking thing Randall does is, I hope the child you bear is strong or something like. It says something weird as fuck.
He goes like, make sure your child, like the first child you bear is a masculine one or something like that.
Yeah. And motherfucking, so yeah, she knows that Dante's told, and she gets pissed and leaves. And so he's telling Dante, yeah, look, you need to go ahead, you need to follow her, man. She's the one for you. No. Because he tells her, you know, he tells Randall that I'm having second thoughts about moving to Florida. And so at this point, Kelly and the sexy stud are pulling in, and Randall notices and is like, "Oh man, go for an hour. Go for an hour." And he's like, "Why an hour?"
You got to go after her, man.
Yeah, and he's
but one of the little interactions before we get into when the sexy stud arrives is when they first go out to the back of that drive-thru. One of my favorite exchanges between Dante and Randall is he swings and hits the fucking mic and like really hurt his hand. He goes, "You swung at me," and he goes, "You ducked," and he goes, "Because you swung at me."
Yeah.
And it's just childish shit like that like is the highlight of their relationship for me personally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That they love each other, but they're always constantly at each other's throats. It's very much like a brotherly thing where it's like, you guys are both like, 30-something now, you guys are still acting like this.
Yeah, it's very much like when they had their brawl and destroyed the convenience store at the end of the first movie, but they're still friends after that.
But yeah, they both drive off, and Kinky Kelly and the sexy stud arrives. And this is another one that gets quoted a lot within my friend group that, what is it? It's not animal porn, it's interspecies erotica.
Yeah, it's not bestiality. And I like that, like, he's clearly not, like, it's one of those misunderstandings because Randall just thinks he's the driver or the roadie. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't think Randall knows that there's not a lady here. And talking about, yeah, I got a fog machine for ambiance. And yeah, so we got a cool scene, a little montage with him trying to find Becky, and they're setting things up, and it's just a montage to pass the time to darkness, and it's playing 1979 by Smashing Pumpkins, and like what all is going on here? Because we see Emma baking a cake, and we just see a lot of driving.
What?
Oh man, you were cutting out.
Oh, I was cutting out?
Yeah, real bad.
How am I now?
You're good now.
It's kind of like their come to Jesus moment where like they're kind of realizing how things are going to go down and what they're going to need to do. Where Dante has that moment where he looks in the window, and again we have another cameo from Kevin Smith's daughter Harley Quinn, where it's kind of him accepting that he's kind of okay with being a dad, you know what I mean, that it could possibly work out, but he just needs to basically explain this to Emma, and, you know. And then we have Randall, who's kind of realizing the flaws of his ways, really. And the thing about Randall, though, is that I feel like that is what he's thinking about in that moment when the camera's panning across him. How much he really is going to miss Dante. He's probably thinking of reopening the quick stop right there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just, you know, he doesn't want this time in his life to end because Dante is the only one who will put up with him. And he's kind of realizing what he's been doing and how he's been kind of pushing him away. But what I love about Randall when he's just being Randall with other people is he would never admit something like that. You know what I mean? Like, he's still going to go through with the donkey show because it's cool, you know what I mean? And because, you know what I mean? He still has to play this persona that he feels like, you know, that he feels he needs to be.
Yeah.
It's only really with Dante at the end that he has his breakdown moment.
Yeah. So, that is crazy that it's Harley Quinn there. You know, that's the second time we've seen her in a movie with
I believe so. I don't know. I don't know if she appeared in Jersey Girl or anything like that. So I think that is the second time they used her, which, you know, is always cool, and it probably helps them save time instead of, because it is such a quick scene anyway that, like.
Yeah, it's better to get your own kid than find somebody else's.
But what happens? Because it's true. It's such a quick montage, and then we're basically just back at the store, and the show is pretty much ready.
Yeah, so the show is ready. He didn't find, and this is what I like about this scene too, is it's morely just a thinking scene for the characters, and it's there for a passage of time. But we don't have a drawn-out scene where he catches up with Becky and she's bitching at him and he's bitching and they realize that they like each other, da-da-da. I'm glad that we don't get that. I'm glad that he didn't find her and he goes back and we get into the donkey show. And Elias is already wasted.
Yeah.
He's done smoked some weed.
Wasted and then some.
Yeah. So he's done smoked some weed for the first time. Drank some beer for the first time. And being drunk and high at the same time is not fun. Especially if you're new to it. But I will say that the way he's acting is a very Hollywood idea of being wasted. But I like it because it makes sense because of the kind of person Elias is maybe he's not even that wasted. Maybe he's playing it up because in his mind, based on popular culture, he believes this is how people act when they are wasted. So maybe he's not even that fucked up and he's playing it up because he thinks that this is how...
Yeah, I could see that because he's also screaming like, "Woo, I love pussy," and like he's trying to fit in, like,
yeah,
and finally being able to be at a party and stuff like that and do what the cool kids do.
Yeah.
But then I think it gets to a point where he is genuinely wasted because it cuts to him fucking jerking it to the donkey show and crying.
I'm sorry, Jesus.
So that's where God. I think at that point he's gone.
yeah, and you know he's passed out in the jail too. So, but I do like that because every other time we've seen anyone get high in these movies, they've act like normal people when they're high. So it is kind of funny to see somebody who doesn't know about this kind of stuff playing it up. So there's a little more thought into it.
It also helps to like it also comes to real life too because it's like I've smoked with various different people and it's true you have some people where you know it's just normal to them, nothing really changes, and then there are the people who kind of overthink it or don't do it too much that when it does hit them, they do kind of become like Elias, right? Where it's not really hitting them as hard as they think it is, but it's exactly what you said, it is so new to them that like you're like, bro, relax. You're not even like you took one hit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like with me, when I used to smoke weed, it was more sparingly, and so I never had a tolerance for weed. So whenever I would smoke weed, I would get stupid off of 2 or 3 hits, and it would last for hours, and my vision would be altered. Things looked different, and I'd be laughing. And I remember Stas and Zach, they were smoking like every day, and I'd smoke maybe once on the weekend, and I'd be like, damn man, why doesn't it fuck y'all up like this? And they're like, well, our tolerance is higher, it's more of like a chill body high. And I'm like, so all this crazy weird shit's not like this anymore? And they're like, no. And then I remember when my tolerance built up when I started smoking every day, and I was like, damn, I miss this. I miss the thing that I used to come to smoke weed for. Now I'm just smoking weed to relax, But now it's been, man.
Yeah, exactly. It does.
Like,
I like how Dan from Ninja Sex Party put it, because he had been like a long time pot smoker, and then out of nowhere, like just gave it up for good, like. And the reason why is because he was like, after a while, like it just kind of becomes your new normal, and then it's like, well, why am I getting high in the first place? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I love about characters like Jay and Silent Bob, is that it simply just never gets old for them. Like that is just their lifestyle. Until Clerks 2. Like this is one of the few moments that, like you said, until they get to the Donkey Show, they actually were doing pretty good for a little bit.
Yeah, now they
tolerance free.
They have fell off the wagon, but yeah. So I haven't smoked weed in like 9 years. So if I were to have a hit, I would get wasted as fuck. And back to the
especially with like half the shit now, with it getting like legalized all over the place. Like
yeah.
with half the shit that they're producing nowadays, the different vapes, the edibles, it's like this shit gets worked on like it's a fucking cure for a disease.
Yeah. But
like, this shit gets you fucked up.
That is awesome. And so the donkey show begins. This is like the big set piece of the movie, if you will. And the reveal comes. The donkey comes out, and Kelly comes out, or the sexy stud comes out. I mean, and I'm guessing Randall thinks that he's like the fluffer for this donkey, and he's like, the chick will be out soon. Yeah, the chick will be out soon. You see,
wait, where's the chick?
Yeah.
I love how even after like he goes up on stage, and Kelly isn't even like phased by it. It's not interrupting him at all. He's just still revving up. And I love how Kinky Kelly kind of has like this tiny little catchphrase that he keeps going back to. I'm Kinky Kelly. This is Sexy Stud. Hey! He always likes to do that little
hey. But yeah, he says, what? But the donkey's a dude, and he's like, Kelly can be a guy's name, which is true because when I was taking sheet metal and blueprints classes, one of the instructors was a man named Kelly.
And I went to school with a guy named Courtney. It's like you learn like what gender neutral names are, and it's like it's really interesting.
Yeah, and so what's so funny is
I'm a gender neutral name. You know what I mean? At the end of the day.
Yeah, Francis.
So.
And yes, Francis is a boy's and a lady's name, both ways. Or you can mail it up and call yourself Frank. And then you can also use it both ways with Frankie as a girl and a guy. But yeah,
they're like because there typically are like, this is going completely off topic. There's typically like gender swapped versions of names. Like I wonder, does Travis have like a feminized version?
I
cannot
think of one. Because I had a buddy back in the day, Chris, and I used to fuck with him. I'd be like, "What up, Christina?" And he could not think of a lady version of my name, and so he started calling me Travioli. Yeah, so, but yeah, exactly. Like I cannot think of a feminine version of Travis. But yeah, so what I think is funny is any time else, like a character like Randall, once they figure out this is a dude. and there's not going to be a chick, they're going to stop the show. But nah, he sits back down, and they're like, "Fuck it, we paid for it. We're gonna see this through." And
it reaches that level of morbid curiosity, and I love that classic shot. It's something you see in a lot of comedies where like something really crazy is going on, and then all of them in a row just tilt their heads, and they're just trying to process what they're looking at.
yeah, the head tilt. And what I really like is Becky shows up, and it's another bit where she's mad for a second, like, what the hell's going on here? Because when Dante shows up, he thinks the place is on fire because of all the fog rolling out of it with the fog machine. So he calls the fire department and forgets about it, basically, and he gets enamored with the donkey show. But when she shows up, she's like, what the fuck is going on? Wait a minute, is that a donkey? Is this a donkey show? And she's all for it, which I think is cool. And there is no, I'm pissed off at you because you told Randall I'm pregnant. There's none of that. Like, they got over it quick. And she's like, I gotta see this shit, And so they're watching more of the donkey show. And then him and her basically discuss, yeah, let's go ahead and let's do this. Let's have a relationship. And they start making out, and then boom, this is when Emma shows up with the damn cake. And
I feel so bad for her in this moment. Like, Jen Schwabach's acting in this moment is really good. But another one of my favorite line reads is, so she starts off crying, but then he tries to come up and apologize and explain. I love when she just grabs him by she goes, you fuck! And just jams him right in the fucking balls.
Yeah, which is like, which is great because like you feel bad for her at first because she's done nothing mean to him. She wasn't bad to him, and she walks in on him making out with this other girl, and so everything that she does from here on out is justified. She calls Becky a whore, throws the ring at her, hits him in the nuts, gets him with the cake, and basically just breaks up with him. And leaves.
I love how Jay feeds into the chaos because he's the one who tells her to hit him. Like, here's the cake.
Yeah.
And then, what's it called? He's the one who kind of blows the cover. Because he goes up to say congratulations to Emma.
Yeah, he comes up to her and says congratulations on the baby. And she, what baby? He's like, I heard Dante talking about you being pregnant. And it's like, oh shit.
So not only did he open up the can of worms, but now that he's there, he's like, quick, hit this fucking cheater.
Yeah. That shit is fucking funny. And then, if things can't get any worse, the motherfucking police and fire department arrives because Dante forgot that he called the fire in. And now they're in a holding cell.
This is a cameo I always enjoyed. The main fighter is played by Kevin Michael Richardson, who's just like super prolific voice actor. He does the announcer voice for Clerks, the animated series, whenever the episode started. But like, if you look up his IMDb, he's like in countless stuff. He's Principal Lewis in American Dad. He played one of my favorite Jokers. I don't know if you ever watched the series just called The Batman that came out in like the 2000s.
No.
That was 2D animated, but he did a really good fucking Joker, so I like that Kevin gave him a live action role.
But yeah, and the thing I forgot to mention is during the whole P Monkey shit, Randall's like, oh, I'm going to take it back. And he had taped with masking tape P Monkey for life on the back of his shirt and wears it for the rest of the movie. And the black cop sees it and gets pissed off about it. But yeah, so they're in the holding cell now, and this is a nice moment where, Dante's pissed and, just talking about how Randall's ruined his life and all this, but Randall gets his moment where, he's saying, you're the only friend that I have, and you're leaving, and you have this really good lady right here. The other lady's not right for you. And so you get a nice character development with Randall and him busting out his feelings. And I do like when he tells Jay and Silent Bob to cover their ears because of Randall's masculinity. He doesn't want any other dudes hearing him talk all emotional and shit.
Yeah.
And then...
and this is where, you know, most times in a Kevin Smith movie, it would be Silent Bob who brings people together. And this is one of the best, I guess, parodies or like inversions of expectation.
Yeah.
Kevin Smith kind of pokes fun at his own structure that, he's like, oh, come on, you know, you usually have something to say here. And he tries, but...
He just says, I got nothing.
Silent Bob's big line is, I got nothing.
Yeah, and then you have a nice moment between him and Jay because Jay starts talking shit, and he's like, "Hey man, look, that hurts."
And I love whenever Silent Bob gets to take a couple of jabs towards Jay's way because he's like, you know, what kinds of things do you add to any conversation? A pussy, man. That's it. You know?
Yeah.
So it's always nice to see Silent Bob put Jay back in his place.
Yeah. When they cut to Elias...
And it's very fitting that you have... It's very fitting that you have these two groups of characters in the same cell together because you kind of see the difference between their two dynamics and stuff like that and how, you know, maybe Dante and Randall need to be a little bit more of like a Jay and Silent Bob, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And when it cuts to Elias passed out, I like that the ass of his pants or his underwear says, "What would Jesus do?"
I actually never noticed that. That's good.
Yeah, you got, what is it, WWJD on the ass of his boxers. But this is another bit that I really like too.
Kiki Kelly's in the cell across from them, and I always have a chuckle out of his last line because he so genuinely says, like, "I miss my donkey," or something like that. Yeah,
because he says, you know, they're like, you know, now I'm going to be a felon. He's like, look, no, you can't go to prison for watching a donkey show. You'll walk. The worst I'll get is a fine and some really bad looks. And then he goes, hey. But a thing I really like here is throughout this movie, especially the first time I watched it, you know, in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, so what happened to all the money Jay and Silent Bob made for the Blunt Man and Chronic movie? You know, they never cut to that. I'm thinking, did they blow all the money? But Jay and Silent Bob are kind of too stupid to blow all of their money. And you know they spent a good chunk of it going around the U.S. so they can beat up all them kids that were talking shit about them. But,
yeah.
So I do like that when Randall brings up buying the Quick Stop and reopening it, and Dante says, that's going to be like $50,000 at least, and where are we going to get that kind of money? And Jay says, well, we got that money. So Jay and Silent Bob still have money left over from that movie, and I like that.
Not to mention also still selling pot, even though technically they weren't smoking it. Like they still, even better, you know what I mean? It's like they don't even need to pick up anything, you know what I mean? They're saving that money on the side.
Yeah, so it's real cool that Jay and Silent Bob got all that money and then they just didn't change. They're hanging out outside of a fucking fast food restaurant like some damn degenerates, but they're clearly fairly rich with money just sitting there.
And they follow just wherever Dante and Randall go because they know they're the only ones who won't, like, fucking call the police on them.
Yeah.
That one time in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Yeah. And so he says, you know, we'll help you guys open it back under two conditions. We can hang out at the store, you can't call the cops on us, and then I want you two to blow each other while we watch, and then you go ass to mouth. And they're like, no.
Scratch that last part, yeah.
Yeah. So I like that Jay, Jay and Bob decide, shit, you know, we'll help them open it back up. And I really like that. So they all get together, you get a montage, they're fixing the place up. They even reopen the video store, and then you get the sign, another reference to the first one, the big sign that says, I assure you we are reopened. And
yeah, and that was always a cute. I think that's the closest it gets to like fan service, you know what I mean? Because there's no reason for them really to do that. And in universe, like Clerks 1 was just one day out of the many, but for us, for the audience, you know what I mean? It's like I can't really talk trash about that. You know what I mean? It's like the feels in that moment are too strong, and you see that Becky's got the baby bump already. Like their family is well on its way. They have that. It's kind of stereotypical, but I can't help but like crack a smirk. Is they have that moment where Dante and Randall are painting together, and he fucking puts the bit of the paint on Dante, and he's like, come on.
Yeah.
it's so.
It's just showing their friendship.
It's so heartwarming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can acknowledge it as a cliche, but it's like you still enjoy it. It feels good for this kind of ending. You know what I mean?
And Jay and Bob get their little spot back.
And because these character arcs are completed by this point, because Clerks 1 really is just a day in the life. There really is no lessons learned, and that's kind of the comedy of it, is like this shit is just more incidental comedy, and it's just stuff that's kind of happening to them. They do reach like a point and like a lesson about like, you know, place in life and stuff like that. It's not like there completely isn't a character arc, but I feel like here it's more of a completed journey. And like I said earlier, especially for Randall. Mm-hmm. This was definitely more of a Randall story. It's a Randall redemption arc, really.
Yeah. And so I like that they reopened the video store as well, and then Elias puts in an application, and, you know, Randall's being a dick, like, nah, we're not going to hire him, but you know they're going to hire him. So basically the movie ends from here. And so I want to throw out like some more Clerks 3 predictions, like I did with, you know, how Star Wars and Lord of the Rings has changed in the past 15 years. Another thing I would like to see change is, you know, we don't have video stores anymore. So what I would like to see is their video store is still open, and it would kind of be hard to do this, especially now. But I would like to see them do it in the movie anyway, but they probably missed the window within about 5-6 years. Is I would like, right in the front of the video store, I would like to see a Redbox kind of DVD rental machine just right there in front of the movie store, and I would like to see customers waiting in line at the Redbox and not going into the video store. And what I would like to see is, I could believe Randall would be standing there at the Redbox, because whoever put that DVD rental machine there is basically taking his money that he could be making. And I would like to see Randall standing there, and when somebody's picking out their movie, I'd like to see him spoil the ending for them, just to be a dick, you know? Like, I would really like to see that happen. I don't know if they'll do it, and in a way, like I said, red boxes aren't as prominent as they were about 5 years ago, so maybe they missed their window, but I would like to see that in there anyway.
I actually want to add on to that, because I think it would be funny if a red box was there. That could actually work for more like a flashback, because Clerks 3 is probably going to give us some backstory into the couple of years between Clerks 2 and Clerks 3.
Yeah.
So you could almost kind of see it as like a quick little montage, like you see the front of the store, and it could be like 2010 is when people are lined up at the Red Box, but I still see plenty of 7-Elevens and convenience stores now, like with just the old, they still work, but nobody uses them, you know what I mean? So like the Red Box would still definitely be there, just unused, unloved. And then in Reboot, wasn't like the video rental store turned into like a chicken restaurant, or like something like Jay and Silent Bob were going to do something with it.
Yeah, I can't fucking remember. But that's
like it looks like a chicken restaurant on the outside, but they're really like selling weed from it or something like that.
Yeah, I gotta rewatch that before we do the podcast for that one. But yeah, I actually don't remember that. But yeah, I think the movie.
I remember by Reboot, the video store at least isn't there anymore, which will be interesting to see. Like, is Elias now working at whatever Jay and Silent Bob is doing? Is that still around, or is he working the Quick Stop?
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how time has passed. Maybe he's not even working in that area of town at all. Maybe he just comes and visits them because they're his friends. Like, it's going to be very intriguing to see, what different plot lines we could be going. Because Clerks 3 has been written and rewritten several times already. I remember there was one draft that Kevin Smith mentioned that Jay and Silent Bob were going to be in space and technically not show up in the movie. I think was going to be the excuse of them not showing up as they were in a space shuttle, and then like somewhere near the end, we would see them like floating in space.
That would be a little ridiculous.
That would be so fucking weird.
But what is it? Because the plot is supposed to be like Randall has the heart attack and wants to make a movie. So I could see it kind of being like one of those things where like the last episode of Dawson's Creek, where basically Randall is going to be Kevin Smith and he makes a Clerks movie, and you know what I mean? And maybe they hire actors to play them, and they're like redoing certain scenes from the first movie.
It kind of makes me scared, right? Because it's kind of what I praise this movie for, that it doesn't do what the typical sequel does, where it's like, we're going to do the same thing over again and we're aware of it. Where this movie is going to be more meta about it, and through this film, it's exactly like you said. I guarantee you we're going to see like the 37 scene recreated with maybe Elias will play Dante, you know what I mean? They'll do some gag like that, you know what I mean? Where they're all kind of playing each other. Yeah. That would actually be kind of fun. You cut to like Dante playing Silent Bob or something like that.
Would you know what would be great if, let's say, Randall's making this Clerks movie and they straight up get Jason Biggs and fucking James Vanderbeek to be Jay and Silent Bob. Like, wouldn't that fucking be an amazing reference?
You'll never believe this, but we got James Vanderbeek and Jason Biggs. Like, Jay and Silent Bob had that connection still. You know who we can call.
That would be fucking great. But yeah, this movie, man, Clerks 2, I think, is a fantastic sequel to the original, and I think that it closes out certain chapters. And like I said, when it was, because originally Strikes Back was going to be the final one, and then originally this was going to be the final one, and I was like, with this being the final one, it's a perfect ending. It closes the characters' chapters, but really, the way, from what we've seen, is you can close a chapter on this series and then add another chapter later on that's as good. You can really just open this book up in different periods of these characters' lives, and just to see where they're at, you know. It's kind of like bringing up the band or artist discography comparison again, where it's at the point now where, let's say, this band has been around so long, they don't drop an album as frequently as they used to, and it's been 10 years since an album came out, and you're just happy that they're back together and giving you something.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm happy to see that my opinion on the movie hasn't really changed drastically. Because I was very afraid that I was going to find a lot of things that nitpick it or bring it down. And then I'd be like, hey, I still like Clerks 1 more. But it's like I said before that I think Clerks 1 and 2 now perfectly stand side by side as companion pieces for me. You know what I mean? Is that I think I have a mutual amount of love and respect for both productions. Clerks 2 may not be as much as the achievement that Clerks 1 was, but aside from, again, some of the small nitpicks we can get into, maybe this scene should be shorter, or this, the overall story and plot and acting and characters and everything is good. You know what I mean? I don't really have many complaints with it. So I guess it just kind of comes down to, again, going back to that music comparison, it comes down to like what kind of Kevin Smith fan you are, like what you like to see, what kind of things you appreciate from his style, and if you feel like maybe this is something that should have been left on the shelf and that Clerks is in the past, that's perfectly valid. But for me, I think because he's able to wrap up those character story arcs and give us something a little bit more emotional than most typical reunion sequels will do, or it would feel very forced. That's the thing. If they are going to go for more emotional thing, half the time the more Hollywood production, the emotion feels very schmaltzy and forced. Whereas here, I do mention that, the ending montage is very heartwarming, and I would say schmaltzy, but there's that auteur, quality, that genuineness that Kevin Smith never really lost.
Yeah.
If anything, I feel like it's more of the complaint I can bring into, reboot rather than this, is that there's still very much that independent filmmaker energy that he puts into it. And it's something I have admired of all of his films from the get-go. You know what I mean? So as long as that quality of this universe isn't entirely lost, I'll keep coming back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even with Reboot, when we get into it next, I still don't think that quality is entirely lost on Kevin. I don't think Kevin is that kind of guy who will completely lose that little spark of his that makes him who he is. He does do a lot of things, and he has become part of the mainstream Hollywood world in a way, but it's less like he sold out and more so that people bought him.
Yeah. And I think he just loves the shit out of this universe and these characters. You just see that he really cares about it, and he knows that the fans really care about it. So I don't think he'll fuck it up.
Either way, yeah, I'll probably enjoy it. Like I said, aside from yoga hosers, I've never really fully disliked anything to me. You know what I mean? And even yoga hosers, there's still behind the scenes stuff that I still get enjoyment out of. You know what I mean? I'm glad that Kevin was so happy during the making of that movie. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's never going to be a time in my life where, even if I don't enjoy the movie the way I would say one of his older ones, I never think I'm ever going to have a soured taste in my mouth with Kevin Smith stuff. You know what I mean? You always know that you're going to be getting something special if he's writing and directing it. Because I know he produces other things, and he did that He-Man Netflix show and stuff like that. And I know there's other things he attaches his name to. But I'm specifically talking about Beat Universe, the stuff that he personally likes and directs and funds. And Tuscan Yoga Hosers fall under that umbrella now. So
Yeah.
that's about the one exception I would say that I didn't like that movie, but it doesn't mean it doesn't change my overall opinion on his talent. You know what I mean? Because I feel like this is how all our Kevin Smith podcasts have ended recently with me defending Tusk, but I like talking about Tusk. I think that was one of his more well-shot movies in terms of cinematography. You know what I mean? Where what I like about Clerks too is that we go back to that stationary and shoot style. What I like about Tusk is that it's not Clerks, so he could, go on the dolly a little bit, do some more different camera motions. It's not anything super extreme, but you could tell he kind of brought that Tarantino energy into some of the shots where we're going to do a couple of quick zooms, we're going to do a pan around here, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there were
water, we're going to go...
Lots of cool shots, lots of weird angles. I love Tusk. Tusk is fucking great.
Yeah, so definitely check out Tusk if you haven't seen it, and in the Basement Facebook page, let me know what you think, because it's, in terms of Kevin Smith's entire filmography, it's one of the ones where I get the most varying opinions on it, so that tends to be the most fun discussion for me. You know what I mean? And it also helps if you've been there from the dawn of its inception. You know what I mean? That was the fun of it for me, was seeing it go from podcast to production to final product. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Clerks 2 on the whole, if we're doing ratings, I think I would give it a solid 7, 8. You know what I mean? It's like, I think it's a competent sequel. And there's a lot of stuff that could have gone wrong that, you know what I mean? The fact that it is as solid as it is, again, really does deserve some credit. As years go on, I feel like a lot of people, I know that I'm harping on this, but I do feel like a lot of people tend to grow out of their Kevin Smith phase, especially film students. And a lot of people try to act like too cool for these movies or something like that.
Yeah.
If you genuinely just don't enjoy it, I get that, but it's like, I've noticed that people can get very nitpicky with stuff that, at least to me, like, it's really not that wrong to it, you know what I mean? That we can kind of ease up a little bit. Clerks 2 and Tusk, and even like Red State, tend to fall under that umbrella for me at least, where it's like, these are movies that I definitely get the criticisms, but don't really need to be as like hard on it as you know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's not like an Oscar-winning film, or it's not like a big tentpole blockbuster film that's like, we don't need to get this up in arms over it,
Yeah.
And that's just Kevin. It's always had to deal with critics and people. That's what comes with popularity and having an auteur style, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People try to chip away at you and try to take away from that, that fun of it. It kind of feels like Hollywood has been out to get Kevin Smith, like, from Mallrat, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And yeah, to me, this is a pretty perfect sequel. It does everything that a great sequel should. Where, to me, I'd rather have a sequel that expands on the universe and it doesn't fall in that sequelitis. You can tell this is a sequel made by the person who made the original. It keeps continuity. It's like another thing. I'm a big fucking Child's Play fan. I'm a big fan of the Chucky series of movies, and I finally saw the Chucky series, and just the fact that Don Mancini is still keeping continuity with his original fucking vision. I'm cool with it. I'm down with it. Like, those to me are some pretty perfect fucking slasher movies and series. And so with Clerks 2,
Yeah.
keeping the fucking continuity there, keeping the heart, keeping the love, keeping the characters and everything. Like, even down to Jay and Silent Bob still having their money. It just works. Everything about this movie for me is the perfect sequel, especially so many years after the first one. And other movies have tried to do this recently with the Dumb and Dumber 2, which I like Dumb and Dumber 2 a lot, but it doesn't do for me like this one did. Dumb and Dumber 2 is fun, but...
And it's something that we talked about before, where it's like, it would either not live up to the comedy of the first one, or try to go way too dramatic with it. Because with these reunion movies, because there's that nostalgia now of seeing these characters again, a lot of them try to play up the weight of, oh, we're seeing our favorite characters again, There's been rumors of a fucking Friends movie, and jokes about it, it's never going to happen, but rumors of a fucking Friends movie for so many years now, and it's exactly what it would be. It would suffer from those problems where it's like, the whole excitement of it is just seeing them again, and then we really don't know what to do with them from there, so we're just going to make them do what they keep doing, even though it would be unrealistic it would be unrealistic, you know what I mean? Yeah. I like that there's the setting change in Clerks 2. That's like, you're able to have them still do a job that requires them to be behind the counter where they don't have to like work much and they can talk. But you know what I mean? It just made sense that they had to get out of quick stop. With Clerks 3, now we have this granted scenario where they own it. So now the tables have turned a little bit, things could be different. But I like for the sequel that they took us out of our comfort zone a little bit. They didn't rely on the fan service. They put it in there, but they didn't whack you over the head with it. Then again, like the comment section said, that it's a lot more subtle with its holdbacks than a typical sequel would be. You know, there's a lot to respect.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was really happy that we were able to go back to it because, with this transitional period in my life right now, you know what I mean, it actually feels quite fitting, you know, to get an ending like this, you know what I mean? So, I think I'm sticking with my 7, 8 out of 10 rating. I definitely recommend it, and like I mentioned before, I am unbelievably excited to get into Reboot because it's still very new in my mind, and it still needs a couple more rewatches. But it's like I definitely know what I'm feeling, and I know the different moments that I want to tap into and go over my conflicting thoughts with because I don't think it's an all the way good movie, but I don't think it's an all the way bad movie either. You know, I mean, it kind of falls in that middle spot. So this rewatch is definitely going to help me finally close the book on that. Like, I still don't have like a fully formed opinion on Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, so it's going to be a really fun one to tackle. If, you know, I don't want to predict anything, but it might end up being a really long one.
Yeah, it might be. We'll have to do that one on an earlier day.
I think picked a good time today, though, man. Like last time we did the Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back episode, we were doing this like dead into the night, and it came out really well. But you could tell we were getting kind of schlumpy by the end. We were getting kind of tired. This was perfect. We got in right at the perfect time. And aside from the Zoom problems, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was so excited to talk about Clerks too. I definitely would say, I don't know if it's my favorite of the universe. I think that still goes to Mallrats, but it's definitely in the top 5.
Yeah, it's so hard for me to really think of a favorite out of these movies because they're all so different. But hell, I guess we should end it here, y'all. Fucking, what do you guys think about Clerks 2? And we'll be back with Jay and Silent Bob Reboot.
Hell yeah. And please, you know, like we said before, hit up that Facebook page, post whatever you like, you know, let us know your reviews of the East Universe. Are you watching them side by side with us, or did you marathon them all at once? You know, please, you know, the discussion never stops. We may, like, hit the off button on here, but, like, it continues on there. And I'm always, like, flipping through there. If not there, I'm on my Danny Elfman meme page. So, you know, you guys always know where to find me. And, like I said, Film Fridays, I do want to make more of a regular thing once the move is completely finalized, because not only is there a ton of movies that I love talking about, but there's a ton of new ones that have been coming out that I've been catching that would be really fun to go over with you guys. So head on over there if you haven't already, and we'll be sure to respond to whatever you give us. You know, even if it's just a meme, even if it's just a picture, you know what I mean? It's like, it's greatly appreciated.
Hell yeah. So we'll see you guys on the next Fresh from the
But
Basement.
on that note, you know, thank you guys for joining us today, man. And we'll be sure, you know, hopefully we'll record the next one very, very soon, and we'll have that one up for you guys. And that's going to be the conclusion of this Universe retrospective, isn't it?
Yeah, we started this shit 2 years ago.
It's about time, guys. Like, you guys are troopers if you've been desperately waiting. I hope you have, because it was quite the wait to get that whole ass pandemic to get through.
Yeah, hell yeah. And, but hell, fucking, I hope y'all enjoyed it. And we'll be back with Reboot. And then when Clerks 3 comes out, we'll be back with that motherfucker.
And then hopefully after, we get wrapped up with Reboot and then eventually Clerks 3, we've been talking about, we mentioned we want to talk Rob Zombie, but there's also a lot of makeup franchise work we have to do. There's been a new Ghostbusters and a new quote unquote new Bill and Ted. The Bill and Ted's been out for a while now, but we haven't shared our thoughts on it.
Yeah,
so that would definitely be fun.
We should
do an episode, maybe a double feature.
This is what we should do. After reboot, we do the Ghostbusters episode, and then we do the Bill and Ted episode to kind of close those out, and then we should jump into Rob Zombie after that.
I'm in. That works with me, man.
Hell yeah.
I'm excited to talk about Ghostbusters Afterlife as well. If that's how it's going to work out, like, we're going to have 2 huge podcasts in the work for you guys.
Yeah, because isn't it weird? Isn't it weird? Because, like, the way I look at it with this podcast, like, Ghostbusters is kind of like where I feel like we really figured it out. Because, before it was a lot of countdown kind of episodes, and Ghostbusters, I believe, might have been the first film review. And we had so much...
It was the first, like one that wasn't a list, yeah.
Yeah, and we had so much fun just digging so deep into the psyche of these characters. And then we did it with Bill and Ted. And so it's kind of weird to me that I thought Ghostbusters was over after Girlbusters. And... crazily enough, around the same time, we get a new Bill and Ted and a new Ghostbusters. And it's like, damn, man, I actually can't wait to talk about those. I still haven't seen that Ghostbusters yet, either.
I was going to say, I haven't watched it since I saw it in the theaters, so I definitely need to rewatch it again. That's another one where I'm going to be watching it like a hawk, taking notes, because if you remember from our first Ghostbusters episode, if you were around when it was uploaded. I know it's not on YouTube, I don't think, but
we got to get it off of iTunes.
I'm a Ghostbusters fanatic to the T. You know what I mean? It's like I feel like I could quote those movies like the back of my hand. So, and that new movie is totally built on referencing the first movie specifically. So, we're gonna have a lot of fun theorizing where the characters go from Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll have to download that episode off of the iTunes so I can put it on the YouTube with the other one. Because I know I think one or all the Ghostbusters episodes are on YouTube, or maybe it's the Bill and Ted that wasn't on YouTube. I can't remember, but I gotta get those off of that iTunes account. Yeah,
we definitely gotta re-upload some. We could definitely we could start a playlist, so once they are uploaded, we could have them in order in case they, people want to go back. A lot of our early episodes were definitely just like, if not top 10s, we were doing top something. I remember at one point we decided to do a top 7 just to fuck around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and a lot of what I remember about my lists, I'm like not happy with. I'm like, man, why did I choose this, or why did I choose that?
Right? No, like I think about that, I was like, what was I thinking? Like, the famous one being we did the top 10 horror movie scores, and oh my god, my fucking choice was nothing. It was literal silence.
Yeah, but your choice made so much sense, though. Your choice made so much sense, while mine was like a cheap cop-out, like, oh, I'm going to choose a musical.
No, but that's an actual soundtrack. I came in like, this was me I think second year of film school. I'm like, I might as well have had my beret and my glass of wine ready. Like, I think silence is the best tool.
Yeah, like an asshole would say that was a pretentious pick, but at the same time, I totally get it. Like, it's validated.
Yeah, it was fun to talk about, but what's funny now that you bring that up is, I don't think that Sweeney Todd was a cop-out at all, because, since doing that episode and then rewatching the movie and, watching it over and over, it's like, I love the shit out of that soundtrack, man. It's like, I definitely see where you were coming from.
Oh, yeah.
Ed.
But shit, y'all, it is getting late, and I've got to work in the morning, and I hope you enjoyed us talking shit about Clerks 2, and all the other random shit we talked about. And we'll see you guys next with Jay and Silent Bob Reboot.
Hell yeah. Catch you guys later, folks.
Catch you on the Dune side.